Tonight, two men who spent over 20 years in prison for murder are paroled. The Labour Minister sounds a warning to employers, and the CSA says action is what is needed by the Ministry and Minister for Labour, not just talk. The details of these stories and more coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovelace and Amy Joseph.
Good night. It is Wednesday, the 16th of December, 2020. Welcome to the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. I'm Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. Two men convicted of murder have been granted parole. A historic parole board hearing was held at the Border Lake Correctional Facility today, Wednesday. The men served over 20 years for the crimes of murder. National Security Minister Herman Gill Francis has wished the two men the best, hoping that they become productive members of society.
Those of you who know me well would know that I have publicly expressed my belief that persons who have paid their debt to society should be given the opportunity to turn the page and begin a new chapter. Everyone who puts his or her mind to it can become model citizens. In the same vein, I encourage the potential parolees, if successful, to be role models for this exercise. Parole does not come on a platter. You will have to be monitored, and I hope there will be no reason for your parole to be either suspended or revoked.
Francis says the establishment of the probation and parole system for St. Lucia has been in the making for many years.
In the early 60s, there was a desk created in one of the ministries dealing with probation matters. If we fast forward decades later, we have evolved into what is now a full-fledged department which falls under Home Affairs and National Security. We would have preferred if the wheels of this initiative functioned at a much faster pace. But suffice it to say that a nation's development is a journey and not a destination, especially in the context of small island developing states such as ours.
It was explained that there are currently several applications before the parole board and even more are anticipated. The Department of Home Affairs and National Security has indicated that existing legislation does not allow for disclosure of release dates or the identification of the parolees. Labour Minister Stephenson King is reassuring the workforce that his ministry is working to ensure that employees are treated fairly by employers during the trying times brought about by COVID-19. King says efforts are being made to ensure that workers' cases within the Labour Department are addressed and warns employers to refrain from treating employees in an unlawful manner.
Unscrupulous employees, beware, because the island's Labour Minister Stephenson King has declared that his ministry will not stand for the unlawful victimization of workers. King spoke on the matter to the media on Tuesday morning and vowed to take to task employers who break labor laws under the guise of the COVID-19 pandemic. King said there will be zero tolerance for this kind of backhandedness.
Any employer who violates or abuses the section of the Labour Code, the severance pay, to dismiss workers or to make workers redundant under the guise of restructuring or repositioning responsibilities will be dealt the full brunt of the law. And I make no excuse whatsoever. Any organization, any company who violates the Labour Code, the section which deals with severance and redundancy will be dealt the full brunt of the law.
The minister sent a message of assurance to the nation's workforce, telling them that his ministry, namely the Labour Department, truly is working for their benefit.
I want to reassure the public, particularly the working public, that there is hope within the Labour Department. And in recent times, what we have done is to begin to restructure and strengthen the department. In fact, in the coming weeks, we are likely to have an additional 4 or 5 new Labour officers, in addition to the complement that we have now. The new Labour Commissioner is very aggressive in what she's doing. We have been able to clear a number of cases which have been pending for some time, and to satisfaction of workers. We have been able to do a number of cases In fact, I have sat in on a number of mediations and ruled in favor of workers, mitigating the movement from conciliation or mediation to the tribunal.
King implored workers to place their confidence in the department, stating that there is new hope for their matters to be heard fairly and timely. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Rochelle Gonzalez.
The Civil Service Association is reacting to the statement made by Labour Minister Stephenson King, who issued a warning to employers who are considering flouting certain sections of the island's labour laws. General Secretary of the CSA, Claude Paul, says whilst this is welcome news from the minister, he is waiting to see what follows the minister's words.
The General Secretary of the Civil Service Association, Claude Paul, is being cautiously optimistic about the statements made by Labour Minister Stephenson King in relation to employers' treatment of their staff during the COVID-19 pandemic. One day after King made a stern warning to employers, telling them that there will be zero tolerance of them taking advantage of employees during these trying times and that there will be serious repercussions, Paul said, whilst the statement is music to his ears, he is not going to dance for joy just yet.
It's left to be seen. I'm not one who will be easily encouraged by words. I would rather see action on the part of the minister and the Labour Department by extension, and to do what is right when it comes to workers. And it is time in this country that workers get their just cause and that justice is provided when workers' rights have been trampled upon by employers. We need that. We need to see in that regard a greater dialogue between all the parties.
Paul said there has been a lack of adequate representation for employees, and so receiving the backing of the minister himself is promising, to say the least.
It is a welcome statement from the minister. I imagine he was inspired by recent statements from Mia Motley, who seem to have come out very forthright in terms of dealing with a labor dispute in Barbados. And if that statement has inspired the minister to find his voice, I think we would welcome that statement from him. St. Lucia's Labour Department has not had a history of dealing appropriately with employers. So I don't know. I hope this is not just mere talk, but it will be followed up by action when the time comes.
Paul said the next move that needs to be made is the inclusion of trade unions in the conversation to recover St. Lucia. He said as representatives of the majority of the island's workforce, the trade unions must be part of the plans and discussions held to restore the country to its former glory. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Rochelle Gonzalez.
You're watching the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Still to come, 175 negative COVID-19 tests, tighter screenings after absconding from the Canadian Farm Program, and the public sounds off on the upgraded Derek Walcott Square.